Hey, I'm May Bonner, and welcome back to Real Conversations, the series where we interview filmmakers leading up to the festival on July 27th. Today, I'm here with Bridget Fitzgerald, the director of Alchemy, a short documentary about the Olio, a small glass studio in Winston-Salem, and its impact on its community and members. So Bridget, I was wondering if you could get us started by quickly telling us a bit about yourself and your background in film.
Well, I just finished my Master's in Fine Arts at Wake Forest documentary film program in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And my background before that was, or it still is, as a clinical social worker. So currently, the way I'm funding my career as an artist or as a filmmaker is through being a social worker. So that's my day job, if you will. And so I'm still doing that. I moved up to Winston-Salem from Florida to attend Wake Forest. I returned to Gainesville, Florida, where I've lived, most of my life, and returned to work as a social worker while, finished wrapping up my program, wrapping up my thesis, and launching my thesis's festival run.
All right, great. So before we move on to more questions, how would you say that background as a social worker affects your films?
Well, it definitely feeds my interests and motivation. So, my motivation to be a social worker is to have an impact in the world and to work for social justice and work for social change. And, lo and behold, that's a very common motivation for documentary filmmakers as well. So it's kind of a perfect fit. So for me, it's really just a creative way of doing what's always been my interest and passion for my work and my career and my life.
Yeah, and I definitely think that passion definitely shows through in your film. So my next question is just, I guess, how did you find this subject and end up finding the Olio specifically and deciding to make a film on it?
So I'd known about social entrepreneurship for many years, and I was a major fangirl for social entrepreneurs. Now I know this sort sounds kind of dry to most people, but that really is what drew me to it. And so social entrepreneurs briefly are people who maybe use entrepreneurial skills or 501s. What's that other term that there's a new term for that for businesses that are socially conscious and
Oh,
um, I
I'm
forget
not
what it
sure if
is.
I can think of it off the top
I
of my
can't
head,
think of
but I
it
do
either.
know what you're talking about.
So businesses that are trying to, be green and be sustainable and take good care of their employees and that kind of thing. So that's like kind of a related thing. But
Yeah.
social entrepreneurs could be that, but also using any kind of organization to, serve the public, and work for social change. And a lot of times they're coming up with, super creative solutions to really, really tough problems. And so that creativity just is so thrilling to me. So I just feel like, that if, everybody's got their little nugget of genius, their little particular brand of, type of thing that they're great at and that they can make a difference in the world in some way. So I used to think you had to be a social worker to work for social change, but now I think, we need ethical bankers. We need, people who are doing microloans and, so like whatever your skill is, you can really put to service for humanity and the earth. So I just love that. I think that's a thrilling concept. And I just want to get that out there to everybody to be inspired to be of service in the world, no matter what they are doing or what they like to do. And so anyway, so obviously I have a passion for that. And so I set out like, well, I want to get this message of social entrepreneurship into the world. And so I'm going to find a social entrepreneur. And luckily at Wake Forest University, they have in the business school, they have a social entrepreneurship minor, I guess. And so I talked to the business school and they had a lot of contact with the community. And they told me about some social entrepreneurs in the community. I interviewed several and stumbled upon Rebecca Byer, who, as you know, in the film, has a background in film herself. So she was sort of very open to it and could see, she knew the potential power of it. And so she really, embraced the opportunity on her side to have a film made. And she was very open and, a great person to work with for sure, obviously.
Yeah, that's great. Um, all right, so my next question is that while this documentary is on a sort of more specific level about just the glass blowing workshop. It's also, from what I could tell at least, on a larger scale, about people sort of finding a place to belong, whether it's in a learning environment or a more societal context. That seemed to be a very big part of the message in this film. So was that sort of part of the intention going into it, or did that develop, or what?
Well, I mean, the intention going into it was just to tell the story about a social entrepreneur, really. But then Rebecca and what she's created there in a safe place and an inclusive space, of course, are beautiful values that I certainly embrace, and that I think our culture at large should embrace, and we all should embrace. Inclusivity and safety and nurturing every human being that's coming up in our culture, to have the support and love and nurturance they need to, reach their full potential. And so, yeah, I love it.
All right, great. So going more into specifics about some of the stuff that the documentary focuses on, that in that sort of realm, one of the main figures of the documentary is a trans woman named Lucy, who worked at the Olio. And the documentary follows a lot of her experience in and a bit out of the shop as well. So I was wondering how that sort of developed over time, and when you realized you wanted to focus on her as well.
Well, there are a number of apprentices at the Olio who are terrific subjects, and Rebecca encouraged all of them to participate. So it was real. So thankfully she was so supportive of the project, and they trusted her so much that, and she was so encouraging of them, seeing this as a chance to have a voice and get their story out into the world. And so, were it not for her, I don't know if I would have been so fortunate to get these kids. But so I was just fortunate to that they were all excellent. They were beautiful, amazing people. They all had amazing stories. In fact, there's a director's cut that has an additional character, and it also has the woman who runs the shop. It has really two additional characters, one apprentice, and it's Sarah Banner, and her whole story, and her struggles with different kind of disabilities that she has, and how she's overcome them, and how she's just truly blossomed at the Olio, is a beautiful story. But it's a long version. It's 40 minutes, or 38. And so, in this world that we're in with these festivals and things, it's sort of like the shorter the better. So, so unfortunately for the purposes of festivals, I shortened it to only include Lucy. And Lucy's story being such a current issue, with young trans people in particular being assault, having their rights challenged. So I thought it was, even though the other story was excellent, and there was obvious reasons to go with Lucy's story.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it's a very powerful thing to include, I'd say. So about that director's cut, is there any way people will be able to watch that at some point?
I don't know. What the long-term life, what the life of the film is going to be. I mean, there might be, say for example, on public television, they might want a longer cut to better fit. I'm right. So this cut's at 18 minutes, and then the director's cut is at 38 minutes. So someone might want something in between. So that would be great, actually, to be able to have that other story in there in a different outlet. So we'll see in terms of distribution or streaming online. I just don't know yet. So
all right.
Sorry.
All right. Well, hopefully at some point that is something people can watch, because I mean, what's there currently is amazing. So unfortunately, due to COVID, the Olio was forced to close. Do you have any updates regarding the status of the Olio and some of the people that we followed in the film?
Well, sadly, the Olio did close, and Rebecca is going into a completely new venture called Guild Glass, where she's going to make architectural glass, and she's hoping, and that's going to be a for-profit business, so it's going to be a totally different thing for her. But she's hoping the 501c3 of the Olio still exists in the IRS, and and that mission still exists within her. And so she is hoping to find a way to bring the Olio in as part of Gilglass to offer employment opportunities, or more employment opportunities than she was able to offer even at the Olio. So it might ultimately be better and stronger opportunity for young folks in Winston-Salem, hopefully. And so she's thrilled with that, and she's doing great. And Lucy just graduated from Wake Forest herself with her 4-year degree. And so she is kind of catching her breath from that. And she's doing terrific as well, thank goodness. So even though the Olio is it's a great loss for the community, no doubt about it. But the people in the film, however, are thriving nonetheless.
Well, that's great to hear. All right, so during production, did you end up running into any roadblocks at all?
Well, I had a great luxury of working on this film for quite a while. I worked on it over 2 years. And so I got a chance to follow these people, and because everyone's going to go through things. Everyone's life there are things happening. So if you have the luxury of following, and you have people who are open to being followed and keeping in touch with you and letting you know what's going on, there's going to be great opportunity for storytelling for sure. But that's a lot of ifs if you're able to maintain all of that.
Yeah.
All that wonderful access. So so I had a wonderful character, but he, lost his job at the Olio, and then and then he was just basically lost to follow up with me. So that was just a great loss. So like he left, but that could have been a wonderful part of the film, that whole story, but it was just too difficult for him to continue. So that was a major loss. And so things like that are beyond our control. So I was fortunate that I had really 3 apprentices I was following pretty closely, so that, for 2 of the 3 to kind of make it to the end and have a full arc and full beautiful story was pretty lucky, I guess. So
that makes sense. And that also sort of dipped into what I was going to ask next, which you've already dipped into with both what you just talked about and the director's cut. But was there anything that you did get footage of that you just couldn't find a place for, like in even the director's cut?
Oh yeah, I have like 90 hours of footage. So there's a lot. And so, because I was, of course I was a student, so I filmed more than I needed to. If I looking back now or moving forward, hopefully I'll, be more judicious with my time and my subject's time in terms of my filming. But I wasn't really sure where the story was going to go, and I had time, and so I filmed a lot. And I let Rebecca let me follow her at her home. I was in the bathroom with her. I was at dinner with her kids. I followed her kids to summer camp. So I actually made like little cuts for them for like a gift, because she ended up getting married in this whole process too. So there's like a little love story in there for them. So and her parents, I shot shot with them, and so I was able to make some little cuts, sort of a personal, like a little thank you gift to the family, kind of, but that didn't make it into the film.
That makes sense. So I think we're sort of wrapping up here, but if there's one thing that you want viewers to take away from your film, what would you say it would be?
Well, I hope they fall in love with my characters as much as I did, particularly Lucy, I guess, in this point. If they don't personally know a trans person, I hope they appreciate this opportunity to meet someone and see what a precious, beautiful being she is, and that it will open hearts and minds to people who maybe don't have that experience and aren't sure what to think. And so I guess that's the biggest message. But then also, of course, like I said earlier, of encouraging everybody to contribute to a more loving, compassionate, just world in whatever way makes sense to them.
All right, great. So do you have any social media where people could keep up with your work? Maybe hear anything about the director's cut, if anything happens with that?
I'm pretty good about keeping up with a Facebook page for it, and it's Alchemy Doc on Facebook. And also my to get to, if you don't find it easily that way, you can go to my website, which is bridgetmaryfitzgerald.com. Bridget, which is Bridget, maryfitzgerald.com. And there's a link that way too.
All right, great. All right, well, that's wrapping everything up. But once again, thank you for coming and joining us and giving us this interview. It was great. And thank you to everyone for watching. This has been Real Conversations. See you next time.